Water compositions in plant science was the topic of my paper. It goes into how different forms of water, such as tap, bottled, and rainwater, have different chemical consistencies in them that can affect plants differently. I chose this topic so that I could help establish some personally unknown facts about water, so that I could apply it into my own gardening and possibly help some fellow gardeners out. The relationship between plants and water is simple itself, but it can be complex when the chemicals that are often present in water come into the picture. Because every plant species' genetics are different, some plants are resistant to chemical differences in water, while others are very sensitive and could die if the water goes outside of their pH requirements. It is a known fact that water sustains plant life, so it is important exactly what type of water the plants require. And plants absorb water through their roots along with other minerals and chemicals. So the roots can also be affected greatly by how the water is. And since the different forms of water vary in their chemical composition, it's hard to tell exactly which type of water is best for plants. Water acidity is the main issue when it comes to what type of water you're giving your plants. Water pH for plants on average should be 6.5 to 8.4 on the pH scale. Um, Anything below or above that could harm the plant and possibly show signs of the plant dying or give it a chemical burn that you do not want. It's also said after research that water acidity damages farm irrigation systems. So pipes and canals can be eroded and uh, destroyed from the corrosiveness of acidic water. So it's important that they test their water in order to prevent these damages because it could be costly. And also it's important to note that since farms are on such a large scale, water acidity could destroy entire crops before the farmer knows it. And pollution is causing fluctuations of rainwater acidity that can damage plants. Tap water is known to have high levels of chlorine, fluoride, and salt. Um, it's probably one of the most unreliable forms of water for plants because you don't know exactly what's in it. So, as opposed to other forms of water, tap water is probably the most unreliable for that. And it sometimes can be found outside the pH scale requirement for plants of 6.5 to 8.4. Probably in rare cases, but it still can happen, so you could kill your plants, and you don't want that, especially on a nice heirloom tomato or some fresh herbs. Chlorine could also be harmful to plants in large amounts. It can kill the beneficial organisms such as mycorrhizal fungi around the roots of the plant, which have symbiosis with the plants. So, killing those would destroy the biological functions and relationship between the soil and the plant roots. And it is known to kill algae in pools, so that relationship shows how dangerous it can be to plants if it kills other organisms. Salinity buildup may cause changes in soil pH. Salt may build up around the roots. Because it can build up around the roots, it'll prevent water and some of the nutrient absorption. So it's best if you try and flush out the salt using bottled water just to make it so that it doesn't build up and prevent the plant from being able to take in as much water. Lower levels of harmful chemicals such as chlorine um, is found in bottled water. It contains beneficial minerals such as magnesium sulfate, which is used for gardening in the form of Epsom salt since it's water soluble. Bottled water minerals and chemicals can fluctuate greatly dependent on the producer, the factory that produces it. And some good minerals may be filtered out in bottled water that tap water or rainwater may. Rainwater is probably one of the most natural sources of water. Plants have undergone evolution for million, uh, millions of years just from rainwater alone. So, since acidity has been increasing with pollution, it starts to get dangerous for some plants as they might not be adjusted to rainwater being polluted. Rainwater is usually not acidic enough to go below the pH of the 6.5. Um, so you don't have to worry about rainwater as much if you want to collect it. It doesn't have chemicals like tap water and bottled water that are geared towards human consumption, such as chlorine and salt and fluoride, so it's probably generally much safer.